Somewhere right now, a 19-year-old is sitting in his childhood bedroom convinced he's invisible. He's using a VPN, a burner email, and a fake name he definitely didn't just copy from a video game. In 6 months, 2 federal agents are going to knock on his mom's front door. This isn't a rare story. This is basically the entire genre. Today, we're climbing the ladder of cybercrime, not by how much money people make, but by exactly how, when, and why they eventually get caught. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. Almost everybody gets caught. The only question is how spectacular the fall is. Level 1, the script kiddie. This is the entry point for basically every cybercriminal story you've ever heard. A teenager downloads a tool off a forum, points it at a school website or a small business, and causes just enough chaos to feel powerful. The catch here is almost never technical. It's personal. He brags in a Discord server. He tells a friend at lunch. Somebody screenshots it. Law enforcement doesn't need to break any encryption when your ego does the work for them. Most script kiddies get caught within weeks. Not because the FBI is hunting teenagers, but because 13-year-olds cannot keep a secret. This is where you learn the first rule of the entire criminal underworld. The tool was never the risk. You were. Level 2, the Carter. Now, we're dealing with real money. Stolen credit card numbers, resold data, small-scale fraud. This person thinks they've leveled up because now there's an actual financial trail instead of just a defaced web page. Except that's exactly the problem. Every transaction leaves a fingerprint. Banks have entire departments built around one job. Noticing when a card used in Ohio yesterday suddenly buys 3 PlayStations in another country today. The average Carter isn't caught by some genius detective. They're caught by an algorithm that flagged their pattern in under a second, followed by an actual human being who spent 6 months building a case. This is where people learn that convenience is the enemy. The moment you reuse an account, an address, or a habit, you've built your own paper trail. Level 3, the ransomware affiliate. This is where things get more serious, and so does the audacity. Ransomware groups now operate almost like companies, with affiliates renting out the malware and taking a cut of the ransom. Sounds untouchable, right? Except cryptocurrency, the supposed anonymous escape hatch, is actually one of the most trackable financial systems ever created. Every transaction lives forever on a public ledger. Blockchain analysis firms spend their entire existence tracing wallet movements, and eventually someone tries to cash out into a real bank account. That's the moment the entire operation becomes visible. One wrong exchange, one linked wallet, and years of careful anonymity collapse in an afternoon. This is the level where people finally understand cryptocurrency was never actually invisible. It was just complicated enough that most people gave up looking. Investigators didn't. Level 4, the dark web vendor. At this point, we're talking about people selling drugs, stolen data, or hacking services on hidden marketplaces. They believe Tor makes them ghosts. And technically, the network itself is genuinely difficult to crack. So, how do these people keep getting caught? Almost never through the technology, through operational mistakes that stacked on top of each other, reusing a username from an old forum, shipping a package with a fingerprint on the tape, logging into the dark web account from the same Wi-Fi they used to order pizza. Silk Road, one of the most famous dark web marketplaces in history, wasn't taken down because someone broke Tor's encryption. It was taken down because of old forum posts and basic investigative work connecting a username to a real identity. The lesson repeats itself at every level. The system holds. The human using it doesn't. Level 5, the corporate hacker. This is where an individual moves from small operations into actually breaching real companies, stealing intellectual property, or holding entire networks hostage. The stakes are enormous, and so is the attention. The moment a hacker hits a company big enough to make headlines, they're no longer facing a local detective. They're facing entire cybersecurity incident response teams, sometimes international task forces, sometimes intelligence agencies. Digital forensics teams can reconstruct an attacker's entire timeline down to the exact command typed at 2 a.m. At this level, sloppy habits from earlier levels come back with devastating consequences. The same IP address used once in 2019 can resurface in a completely unrelated case years later. Nothing digital ever fully disappears. It just waits. Level 6, the nation-state operator. And here's where the entire game changes completely. At this level, we're not really talking about individual criminals anymore. We're talking about operations backed by governments, built for espionage, sabotage, or geopolitical leverage. These operators have resources, training, and legal protection that no independent criminal will ever have. So do they get caught? Sometimes, yes, but not in handcuffs. Attribution happens instead. Cybersecurity researchers and intelligence agencies identify the group, publish a report, and give it a name. The operator doesn't go to prison. Their country simply gets publicly named and faces diplomatic consequences instead of a courtroom. This is the one level where the traditional definition of getting caught doesn't really apply anymore, because the person behind the keyboard was never truly independent to begin with. So what's the pattern connecting all 6 levels? It's almost never the technology that fails. Anonymity networks mostly work exactly as designed. What fails every single time is human behavior. Bragging, reusing habits, getting comfortable, cutting corners after months of careful discipline. From a teenager showing off in a Discord server to a group operating with the backing of an entire government, the latter looks completely different at the top and bottom, but the underlying lesson stays exactly the same. The system was never really the weak point. The person behind it always was. And that 19-year-old we started with, sitting in his bedroom convinced he's invisible, statistically, he's already made at least one mistake he doesn't know about yet.